Okay, so what I do is I know I'm going to get asked example questions here, right? You're applying at Thomson Reuters. You're going to be asked, tell me about a time when. I come up with my 5 strengths that I want to make sure that the hiring manager knows I have. And then I pick a situation that demonstrates each of those strengths. Because if I have those examples in my back pocket, I'm going to be a lot less nervous about tell me about a time when. Because I have 5 things that I can think through, okay, this applies to this question. And I'm not spending as much time trying to think of every single project I've ever done. I already know the examples I want to talk about, and I know the strengths that they demonstrate to the hiring manager. So that's something that I do rather than think through, 20 questions I might get asked. If you're applying for the right jobs, you're not going to have expertise in every single part of that job description. I think I've told my team that if it's not a little bit scary, it's not the right job for me. But that means that I'm going to get a question that, tell me about a time when you did, and I haven't done it. So what I do is I take a minute and I analyze what the skill is that that interviewer is asking me to demonstrate. So if you were to apply for my team and you haven't been on product management, and I ask a question like, as a product manager, tell me about a time when you've worked with a team to prioritize at the end of the project because you're not going to get everything done. I know you haven't been a product manager. I saw your resume. Don't tell me that you haven't done it. Tell me how you've demonstrated prioritization skills. Tell me how you've worked with a technology team in the past to make really difficult decisions. Because what I really want to know is, do you have the skills needed? And if your example demonstrates to me that you've gone through those skills, then you've answered my question successfully. Start by not telling the interviewer that someone else is better than you. And you laugh, but people do it. Michael alluded to that in his clip. So be really confident in what your skills are. Be ready to answer the question. When somebody asks you, why should we pick you, or why are you the best candidate? You're going to get asked that question, by the way. Have an answer for it. Know your top 3 strengths and be able to articulate them. Don't worry about what other people are going to say. Let them figure out how they're going to pitch themselves, and then let the hiring manager make a really intentional decision based on the strengths that you've demonstrated to them. I would add that I think there's a distinction in the type of question you're asked and what kind of answer you want to give. So if you're asked that question, like Heidi was asked, tell me about yourself. I'm going to tell you that I've got 3 kids, and I'm going to tie that into the fact that I am an expert at juggling way too many balls in the air at the same time. And then I'm going to bring that back to how I'm going to show up in work. So I think in those really open-ended questions, be authentic to yourself. Don't be afraid to say that you have a family if that's really important to you, or if something else is really important to you, right? But when you're asked about, give me a specific example of when you've done this thing, even if it's a skill rather than coding a specific type of language or being in a specific situation, keep those as work-focused as possible. I think that's how I've navigated that pretty successfully. I always ask what excites you about your day-to-day job. So I want to know what you're passionate about. I want to know what you're energized by. I want to know that you're going to like the job if I offer it to you. So that's something that I always ask. So I think Heidi or Liz alluded to it before, but I think of every interview I go to that I'm applying for a position that I'm interviewing them too, right? It's just as important for me to make sure that it's a right fit for me as it is for the hiring manager to make sure that I'm the right candidate for them to hire. So any sorts of questions that I bring to that are really aimed at me figuring out, is it the right job for me? So some of my favorites to ask are like, if you've done this job before, what were your favorite things about it? What are the things you didn't love about it? I want to get a really honest picture of the position. So Lisa, you also asked, should I ask, would you hesitate to hire me for any reason? I think the panelists to my left might have a different opinion. I would say not unless you think you really bombed on one question. If you think that you gave an example that didn't answer the question, or you've thought of something that you really want to demonstrate a strength that you think you floundered on before, maybe then it's okay to ask, were there any strengths that you're looking for that I haven't demonstrated? Because it lets them say, yeah, actually, I'm really looking for somebody who can do X, and you've opened the door to be able to give that example. Otherwise, I would probably not ask that question, because to me, it demonstrates you're not confident in your interview.